Hello, and welcome back to Random Vids. So, today, I decided to talk about one of my absolute favorite shows of all time. I think you all know, good old Total Drama. I love Total Drama, as you all know. I started watching it about 2 years ago, back in 2023. What an odd time to start watching a new show. Anywho, bad year aside, Total Drama is a very great show in my opinion. It's basically the cartoon version of Survivor, which is another really great show. And I got to thinking, how good was each season's finalists? Obviously, each season has a finale. It's always 2 for Total Drama. It's usually 3 in the actual show, but for Total Drama, it's 2. So I decided to rank each finalist from each Total Drama season from worst to best. And for funsies, I'm also going to throw in Disventure Camp as well. What is Disventure Camp, you may say? Basically a liberal version of Total Drama. And a fan-made one. So that's basically Disventure Camp in a nutshell. But I figured it's pretty close to Total Drama, so... And I've seen I've seen 3 full seasons, so might as well include Disventure Camp as well, since it's very similar. No Reality Resort. I haven't seen Reality Resort or that other one. I do want to watch those ones sometime in the future, but for now, Total Drama and Disventure Camp, ranking each finalist from each of those seasons from worst to best. And yes, I will include the Redonkulous race as well, and I will also include the Reboot Season 1, but I will not include Reboot Season 2 because I have not seen Reboot Season 2 yet. So with that, let's get to the absolute worst finalist I've seen between Disventure Camp and Total Drama, and that worst one is easily, without a doubt, 100% Disventure Camp Season 3, aka Disventure Camp All-Stars. Woo, this is bad. So, this final 2, where do I begin? Well, I guess I should begin by saying, I've already talked about this final 2 before when I ranked each Total Drama, or each Disventure Camp Season Plus character. And my opinions have remained exactly the same. I mean, it's only been a few months since I talked about it. I don't know what it is, but Total Drama and Disventure Camp had pretty weak All-Star seasons. And if anything, Disventure Camp had the weaker one, because at least All-Stars from Total Drama had some sort of decent character elimination. It was just so horrible the way they did it. For starters, let's talk about two of some of the absolute most hated Disventure Camp characters of all time, Jake and Rhea. Let's start with Jake, shall we? So, Jake originally made it in 5th place in Season 1, and he basically kind of plot armored his way through that season. Well, what do you think is going to happen in this season? You think he's probably going to get out, right? He's not really the most liked character. No, that's silly. Instead, what's going to happen is the whole season, they're going to give Jake the most ridiculous plot armor I have ever seen out of any Disventure Camp or Total Drama show ever. I mean, ever. I know people poo-poo on Pocketoo Island. I know people poo-poo on Total Drama All-Stars and that final 2. Heck, even Reboot Season 2, I've heard, isn't as good as Season 1. But, really, I don't think it can compare to Disventure Camp Season 3's final 2. It is awful. And I mean awful. Jake is easily, in my opinion, the absolute worst Disventure Camp character without a doubt. No one even comes close to Jake. I hate him so much. He is such an annoying character who I feel like he gets his way every single time. AKA, he gets plot armor. There is so many times in the All-Stars where he is an easy target to go home, but yet they keep him around, or he gets, as we like to call, plot armor and stays in it. Like, look at all of these great characters they eliminated to put Jake in the final 2. They got rid of Ashley. They got rid of Tess. They got rid of Lake. They got rid of Gret. Why would you get rid of a character that you took the whole season to develop just to put a character who no one liked? in the final three. Now, don't get me wrong. I know there is a Jake fan base somewhere, apparently, because ONC is making Jake this big character, apparently. So, apparently, there is Jake fans somewhere. So, okay. Personally, I can't stand this dude. He is a big, fat screen hogger, too. He is in every single episode of DC All-Stars, and he screen hogs most of it. Yes, let's have this very annoying character screen hog the whole season. I've already seen him screen hog season 1. I don't need another season of him doing this. What's even worse is apparently that wasn't enough, and now we got a Tom and Jake spinoff. Why? Why are we getting more Tom and Jake? There's what makes it even more annoying is that there is so many opportunities that we can all see them take. Why not have Gret and Alec make it to the finals, or heck, Alec and Gabby? Way more likable characters, but Jake, he just winds his way through the season. He hardly matures at all, and yet he makes it to the final two just so we have someone to root for against the villain. That's something that DC has been known to do with its other seasons, is that usually there is a hero that starts off annoying or mean or even a villain and grows to a hero at the end. So that's who we root for, right? Well, All Stars was written so poorly that Jake saw hardly any improvement throughout the whole season at all. And if anything, it was just lazy writing to make him look like the better person between him and Rhea. And personally, it doesn't work at all for me. Jake is still annoying as heck. The whole him and Allie fighting just because Allie wanted the tablet to do something she thought was right, and Jake threw a big hissy fit about it. This character is so obnoxious, so annoying, and I despise him. And I try not to use words like hate or despise, because those are strong words. But I can tell you I hate and I despise Jake. And I hope after the Tom and Jake Season 2 now that we're getting, we don't see this character again. Knowing ONC, that is never going to happen. Jake is their writer's pet, so Jake is going to be in everything possible. He's basically Owen from Total Drama. The only difference is that Owen is a light character. Everyone loves Owen. But Jake, not so much. I don't care if he got slightly better in this as the season went on. He was still incredibly annoying to sit through. And the fact that there's 2 seasons of the Tom and Jake show, yet there's 3 seasons total, including the beta with Jake in it. Ay, 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 it is so horrible. I hate this character. As you can see, I hate this character. I hate what they did with Disventure Camp All-Stars. And then there's Rhea, who's not really any better. Now, obviously, everyone wanted a villain to win for once. So ONC is like, oh, you want a villain to win? Well, what about, the one that isn't a villain and more of a psychopath? Yeah, we'll have that one win. Rhea isn't really even a villain. She's a psychopath. She lasted way too long in this season, in my opinion. And personally, the way that they wrote her story was just so backwards. They should have had her main story, cut out the whole stupid Jake and Tom crap that nobody asked for, and instead have the first half of the season be Rhea and Connor. Because, yeah, their story didn't seem finished. Jake and Tom, their story seemed finished, and I didn't want to see any more of them, especially Jake. But Rhea and Connor, I could see having more of a story. So they could have had that in the beginning, and then get them both out, and then have the merge be focused more on Gret and Yul. No, that's not how it went at all. Instead, Rhea just kind of was there in the first half, and then we have the Rhea and Connor storyline in the second half of the season. It just seems so backwards, and it just made Rhea just not just a villain, but just like an annoyance. No one liked Rhea, and no one wanted her to make it to the final 2 again. She already made it to the final 2 in season 2. Why would she make it to the final 2 again? But the writers, like I said, they just didn't know what the heck they wanted to do. So they were like, you know what? Rhea and Jake, final two. There you go. I hope you're happy. All the Jake fans, and for most people who hate Jake, plus basically everyone who hates Rhea, there you go. What's worse is that Rhea didn't have any redeeming qualities. She's just your stereotypic bad guy. She didn't mature until the very end. Possibly, I don't know. They kind of left on a weird cliffhanger. But it's just so weird the way that, they ended up writing this. And Rhea was just so annoying as soon as Connor came back, because now all of a sudden these two are fighting, like two toddlers fighting over a crayon, I swear. And then Rhea has to go and do crap like break his legs, and then Connor quits. Oh my, this season is just so god-awful. It's easily the worst Disventure Camp season, and it's up there as one of the worst seasons of this genre of all time. I still think Pocket 2 Island has it beat as the worst, but this is an easy close second, because man, the writing just went from decent to garbage. But yeah, this is easily 100% the worst Final Two I've seen between Disventure Camp or Total Drama, and it will always be the absolute worst Final Two I have seen out of Disventure Camp or Total Drama. Alright, time to move on, because I could talk about how horrible Season 3 is as much as I could talk about how horrible this season is forever and ever, because we already heard it. I hate Jake. Rhea isn't much better, and they only kept her just to have a villain win, and just had the storyline be money doesn't buy happiness thing. It just felt so bland and boring. It's like, remember, this is supposed to be like a ripoff of Total Drama, which is a ripoff of Survivor in a way. But I just feel like they go way overboard with too much storyline. It's like, okay, slow down a bit. Total Drama has a great balance of story and like action, I guess. I don't know what the word is. Game time, I guess, to make it feel like, oh yeah, this is Survivor cartoon style. But Disventure Camp, it doesn't really focus much on the challenges. It more focuses on the drama plus the story, which ain't a bad thing, but it just goes on for way too long, especially in this season. So, I mean, this season easily is the worst when it comes to Final Two. Two dislikable characters, one hated character, in my opinion, made it to the Final Two. It's easily the worst thing without a doubt. So let's move on. This Final Two is so bad that every single Final Two after this is miles better. So with that, let's move to number 10, which is Total Drama Revenge of the Islands finale. Like I said, Jake and Rhea's whatever they were trying to do with that was so bad that every other season is like 1,000 times better just by default. But something has to be on the list next, and I chose Total Drama Revenge of the Island. So, this season, I definitely have mixed thoughts about this season. On one hand, there's a lot of funny moments. On the other hand, there's also a lot of moments that just feel very dry, and also the fact that the second half of this season is pretty just eh. Also, I can see what they're doing, at least with this Final Two. I guess I could sort of see what they're trying to do with Disventure Camp 2, because it's so predictable, but at least with this, like, it's something. So for this, it's, I can see what they're doing with the finale. They want to do a brain versus brawn type thing. Okay, interesting, except for the fact that Cameron and Lightning don't really see them much as finalists in a way. Let's start with Cameron. Don't get me wrong, I like Cameron. I think he's a great character, but better than characters like Mike or Zoe or Joe or Scott? I don't think so. Cameron's fine, but he definitely got carried in this season, big time. And it was mainly with Mike and Zoe, sometimes with Joe and even Lightning as well, but Cameron really got carried this season, so having him make it all the way to the Final Two and not one of the better characters is not bad, but just kind of like, oof, there's better characters to make it to the finale. And having Cameron be kind of the main character of Revenge of the Island is just kind of fine. Like I said, nothing against him. He's just a little more boring compared to other characters. And Lightning, I don't know what the heck they were trying to do with Lightning. And I don't really know how I feel about Lightning either. Because on one hand, he does have his funny one-liners, and he can be funny at times. but other times he can be downright obnoxious and just downright cocky. And I think that's another reason why I just ain't really the biggest fan of Lightning. As a villain, he's very one-dimensional and just way too cocky. Like, he's this big, strong Lightning who's going to take down Cameron. Okay, that's fine, but with previous Total Drama villains like Heather and Alejandro, they were very down-to-earth and had very, like, different personalities. They could be nice one leg, then they could be, villainous. That's what made them fun characters and everyone loved them. But Lightning, he's just very one-dimensional and very cocky when he becomes a villain. So him just basically bullying Cameron for the rest of the season got old quick and ended up having the worst episode of Revenge of the Island being the one where Zoe gets kicked off. Lightning definitely is definitely the weakest villain of Revenge of the Island, so putting him there over like Joe or Scott, it's just a shame. I could see Joe and Cameron going against each other, but Lightning, it's just a little boring, and B, like I said, I don't really see Lightning or Cameron really making it to the finals, especially Lightning. Lightning at least didn't get carried-ish. He kind of was his own character, but he also is just, like I said, extremely boring. And by the time he became a villain, he just became even worse. So it's one of those ones where I hate watching the Lightning ending, having him win, because it definitely is very just awkward with everyone. Everyone is like so upset. But when Cameron wins, everyone's happy. So that's the ending I usually end up watching. But yeah. Revenge of the Island doesn't have a terrible finale, but I just feel like there's characters that had a way better arc this season that could have been in the finale. Like Zoe, for example, everyone wanted her to win in this season. Heck, I did too. Zoe was basically the main character this season, alongside Cameron, and heck, it could have been Zoe and Joe. I think that would have been a much better finale, but what we got, it works, I guess. So with that, let's move to number 9, which is Duncan and Beth, the Total Drama Action finale. Yeah, this one was obviously going to be a lot lower on the list. Now, I was debating putting it above Revenge of the Island, because neither Duncan or Beth really deserved the final 2 in this season, but at least this final 2 wasn't quite as boring as Revenge of the Island's final 2 was. I wasn't quite as upset with this final 2 as I was with Revenge of the Island. So, Duncan and Beth, what an odd duo to make it to the final 2 in Action. Don't get me wrong, they're great characters, but are they the right choices? Let's start with Beth. Yeah, Beth was definitely a lot better in this season than she was in her original. She definitely did a lot more, and she was a bit smarter, I guess. She had her, what's the word? She was more, independent, I guess, in this season. But final 2, oof. Especially over characters like Harold and Lindsay. Like, Harold and Lindsay were basically the icons, the main characters of Season 2. Lindsay went through, like, a whole arc after, like, now basically her independent arc, too. And Lindsay's just a way better character than Beth anyway. And I think she was originally supposed to make it to the final 3, but something went on with her, voice actors, I think, or something like that, so she didn't end up making it to the final 3. Final 2. I forget how that worked, but yeah, the Lindsay elimination is just so brutal this season because, man, she really deserved final 3. And heck, Harold too. Both of these characters had gotten so much character development in this season, and it would have been so cool seeing them make it to either at least one or the other making it to the final 3. But Beth, okay then. And then there's Duncan. I don't mind Duncan, and I could definitely see him making it to the finales, but I'm not sure if Action was quite his season. Now, don't get me wrong, it was fun seeing him and Harold together for sure. They had their fun moments, and they both sort of grown to work together as the season went on, but most of the season, Duncan was just kind of a big bully most of the time. And he also did get his fair share of plot armor as well. Not horrible, definitely nowhere near like Jake and Rhea from Disventure Camp, but you can tell there's some here and there. Nothing horrible, like I said, though. I don't know. This is just one of those finales where it's like, I don't really know how to feel. I don't mind Duncan and Beth making it to the finale, but I think it would be much better if characters like Lindsay or Harold made it to the finale. Characters that we all would much rather see, I think. And I think that's what everyone says. And also the fact that this is the best Lindsay and Harold ever do. At least for Revenge of the Island, Zoe comes back and actually makes it to the finale. But Lindsay and Harold, when they come back, they just do way worse, which is a shame. So it just feels like wasted potential. But you know what? I'm not too mad about this finale. It's not like what Disventure Camp did with All Stars. That will haunt me forever. But at least this is tolerable. This is fine. So at least they both had their strong. At least it didn't feel like they were getting carried. Okay, Beth maybe a little by Lindsay, Duncan maybe a little by Courtney, but not as much as like Lightning and Cameron felt from Revenge of the Island. So total drama action, you're the third worst. Nothing else I have to say, so let's move to number 8, which is Sky and Sean from Pakatu Island. Wow, can't believe I'm putting this over Total Drama Action, I know. Well, yeah, Total Drama Action is definitely a way, way better season than Total Drama Pakatu Island is. But in terms of the finalists, I think Pakatu Island is a bit better than Action, not gonna lie. It also probably helps that Pakatu Island has the most stereotypic boring cast ever, so only like some of the more interesting characters made it further, like 6th place and above I think were more interesting, minus Sugar of course. But Sky and Sean I think were interesting enough characters. Sky had her own like story. She's basically like Priya from reboot seasons but worse. And then Sean of course was his own character, being afraid of zombies and thinking there's going to be some sort of silly zombie apocalypse. But comparing him to a lot of the other Pakatu Island characters, he was actually a really great character, and in my opinion, the best Pakatu Island character. So having the finale be 2 great Pakatu Island characters that I could see making it to the final 2 ain't half bad. Now, yeah, I'm sure some would rather have like Jasmine in here opposed to Sky, which I can see that, but we already kind of had the boyfriend-girlfriend finale with Mike and Zoe the season prior, so I don't mind seeing something a little different. Now, yeah, the finale is pretty boring as heck in the way it's all done. Sky and Sean do nothing but fight the whole time, and that's what Pakatu Island's theme basically is. It's just a big fighting season. Chris is obnoxious. Chef is hardly in it. I completely forgot he was even a character. Everyone seems to fight with each other. Dave is obnoxious. Sugar's obnoxious. Rodney's obnoxious. Topher's obnoxious. It's just an obnoxious season. Heck, it's even worse than the disaster that Disventure Camp All-Stars is. Yeah, I can't believe Pakatu Island is worse than Disventure Camp All-Stars. But you know what? That season was bad, but at least it was entertaining. This season was just so dry and boring. Even the final challenge is like, what even is the final challenge anymore? Look at World Tour and how just like, not anticlimactic, but just how like, not complex either, but just look at how much fun the Total Drama World Tour finale was done, and then compared to this, it's just so lame in comparison. At least it's 2 characters who deserved the final 2 this time around, although both of them fight in the final 2, so it's just meh. But hey, sometimes Sky wins, sometimes Sean wins, and I'm glad. I prefer Sean, so I usually watch the ones where Sean wins on, so there's that. Yeah, not a bad final 2, but it comes from Pakatu Island, so of course there's going to be troubles somewhere. Nothing else I have to say, so let's move on to number 7, which is Mike and Zoe, Total Drama All-Stars. Oh, whoops, sorry. Mal and Zoe. So, Total Drama also had an All-Star season, and just like Disventure Camp, there was definitely a lot of things wrong with Total Drama All-Stars. Unlike Disventure Camp, it was 1,000 times better, and at least had a miles better finale than whatever the heck Disventure Camp All-Stars was trying to do. So, I'm still trying to figure out what Total Drama All-Stars was trying to be. I feel like, overall, it was just a very rushed season, which I feel like it could have used the extra time, extra cast. For it being an All-Star season, come on, like, you gotta have more than just 14 competitors. Especially when you get out most of the Gen 1 characters and leave most of the Gen 2 in it for the end. That's a... Anywho, Mal and Zoe. Mal is our villain of the series. You see, this is another villain done wrong, as everyone says, because it's true. So, what usually is the most boring type of villain is the stereotypic bad guy villain, and that's exactly what Mal is. He's bad because why the heck not? He doesn't have any redeeming qualities. He isn't a down-to-earth person. He's just evil to cause drama. He's evil to be evil, and that's just lame. Look at Heather and Alejandra from the original series, and Duncan even. They're written so well. They're complex characters, but they have to be if they're villains. But that's what makes them great characters, because, they're complex. And they can be down to earth and, normal people as well. They're not just stereotypic bad guys. That's what makes them a lot of fun to watch. But Mal, no, absolutely not. And his appearance in All Stars lasted way too long. And it's unfortunate that was just the main thing of the season. But hey, at least Mike and Zoe got to make it together. I'm sorry. Mal and Zoe got to make it to the finale. So hey, Zoe at least got to make it to the finale this time. At least this is a finale that I can see happening. Because Zoe still did kind of dominate the season. Obviously, yeah, Gwen made it really far again. Alejandro, of course. Heather was doing decent if it wasn't for that. If it wasn't for Alejandro taking her idol. Mal, I don't really know. I guess he just kind of pretended he was still good. So I guess that's probably the best way you can do it, is just have it be a surprised villain where, the characters don't really know who the villain is. So I guess that's fine. The only problem is that it drags on way too long in this season, and I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it being Mal and Zoe. Oh yeah, Mike comes back in the last few minutes, and in some cases he ends up winning, in other cases Zoe ends up winning. I prefer the Zoe win because Mike was only in like 30% of the season. Zoe was in the full 100% of the season, so I prefer Zoe winning. And yeah, she may be a little more dumbed down opposed to the original season, but I mean, I gotta give credit where credit's due, if you know what I mean. I like Zoe. I think she's a great character. Mike's a great character too. Mal is not, though. But this is still miles better than what they try to do with Disventure Camp All-Stars. This at least is fine. Like, it's average. So, with that, let's move to number 6, which is Miriam vs. Fiore, Disventure Camp Season 1. Season 1 was the first season I watched, even though it came out after Season 2, because there was a beta season of Season 1. So they ended up remaking it, basically. And this is now the Season 1 we all know and love. So, Miriam and Fiore, miles better characters than Jake and Rhea. Well, one of them is at least. So, what's kind of interesting is that for this season, they took the youngest person in the cast and the oldest person in the cast and made them make it to the final 2, which I thought was kind of funny, and I think it worked really well. So Fiore ended up being a kind of a surprise villain in Season 1. Personally, I didn't really like her. I thought she was really annoying and kind of overstayed her welcome at times, but okay, fine. She can make it to the final 2 just so we can have oldest versus youngest. And Miriam, of course, used to be a very grumpy old lady who didn't really like anything to do with Disventure Camp. But eventually, thanks to the absolute worst character of the show, she finally ended up seeing her ways. And she changed and was really good. Like I said, this is what, Disventure Camp does. It takes a person that is either grumpy or just a villain, and as the season goes on, they change and they just become much better characters. And that's exactly what they did with Miriam. And I really love that, because I was really rooting for Miriam. I thought she was a really great character. She ain't no screen hog like Jake. She isn't a big crybaby like Jake. So, and they actually gave her character development. Disventure Camp, okay, you know what? I don't want to talk too bad about ONC and Disventure Camp, because they are currently doing a Season 4. And so far, and I'm crossing my fingers and I'm trying not to jinx myself, but so far, it is a really great season, and I think it's written really well. But I'm crossing my fingers, and I'm trying not to jinx anything either. So, but yeah, it was really great seeing Miriam go up against Fiore, and of course, Miriam ended up winning. So I know some people are a little salty that Miriam made it to the finale and not Ellie. Because in the beta version, yeah, Fiore also made it to the finale, but also Ellie made it to the finale instead of Miriam. So I think a lot of people thought Ellie was going to make it again, opposed to Miriam. But personally, I like Miriam way better than I do Ellie. Ellie is fine. She just seems like she's just kind of eh. Miriam at least is an interesting, different character. Ellie just seems like a lot of the other girls of Disventure Camp. At least Miriam is different, and I love the character development she got. So having Miriam win this season was great, and definitely a much, much better finale than Disventure Camp Season 3. So, yeah, let's move on to number 5, which is James versus Rhea in Disventure Camp Season 2. Oh man, I remember after watching Season 1, I went to go watch Season 2, and I just couldn't stop watching it. It was such a great season. Yeah, the quality ain't quite as good. Yeah, maybe the story isn't quite as complex, but personally, the story doesn't need to be a big, giant, complex mess, because if you have that, then you have Disventure Camp Season 3. So I'd much rather have, yeah, complexity, but also the fact that simplexity, so it's easy enough to understand and not just feel bored with the season. So, man, Rhea and James, where do I begin? Rhea started off as kind of like a quiet character, joining along with the Rosa Marie and Lake friendship. Eventually, though, she ended up taking Rosa Marie's idol and got Rosa Marie eliminated. And she ended up making it to the final 2. And that's when she ended up showing to everyone that she was indeed a villain. James, on the other hand, is kind of like the complete opposite of Rhea. He started off kind of like as a villain, a little cocky, a little rude, a little mean in ways. But as the season went on, he really started to see his own ways and change for the better, and he became the true hero, just like Miriam did in Season 1. Except Miriam wasn't really a villain, she just was a little grouchy and didn't want to be there. Where James, he was definitely cocky and definitely rude. But as the season went on, he definitely grew and matured, and it made me start to, root for him, especially when it was him versus Rhea then in the final 2. And like Season 1, the hero won, aka James, and unfortunately then Rhea, I guess, kept that sitting with her for, a year or 2, and then eventually came back with 2 years. Yeah, because 2024, that's when Disventure Camp Season 3 was going on. Then that's when Rhea went to full, not just revenge mode, but full psycho mode. But honestly, I don't want to blame it on Rhea. I want to blame it on the writers. It's their fault for making Rhea act psycho. Anywho, moving on. I just really remember being very invested in this final 2. Like, oh man, like what's going to happen next? And seeing Rhea betray her friends, but then also, like, she still wants to be friends with them, but at the same time, it's like, oh, the cameras are on. Okay, boom, now she has to be this villain. Kind of interesting the way they did that at first. Then they dragged it on in Season 3, and it got annoying. But I think the only reason why it's a little, that I put it an edge above the Season 1 finale, it's just because this finale really kept me on the edge of my seat, whereas Season 1, not quite as much. Now I was just more annoyed, and I was like, you know what, Miriam, come on, please win. Or at least this season, like, Rhea and James are both likable characters in this season. I say this season because Rhea's a whole different character in Season 3. So, at least they were both likable, and I was like, you know what, it's kind of fun, watching these two battle it out to see who's going to win. So, I think, so far, this is probably the best finale we have from Disventure Camp. Now, like I said, Season 4 is currently going on, and currently, I think it's probably the best season so far. But I also don't want to jinx it either, because Season 3 went downhill quick, and I don't want Season 4 to be the same. So let's hope that Season 4 is the best Disventure Camp season. And so far, it seems like the writers learned from their mistakes from Season 3, hopefully. Because so far, I really love Disventure Camp Season 4. So, maybe the finale in season 4 will be really great as well. We'll just have to wait and see. With that, let's move to number 4, which is Owen and Gwen from the original Total Drama Island. Ah, man, the good old classic. It's so great. It's such a good season. It's such a good intro to the series, and it has a really good final, too, as well. Owen, who is the goofy, hilarious, basically, not writer's pet, because that's a mean way to call Owen, but also, like, the icon of Total Drama. And Gwen, this was definitely her best season, where she definitely dominated the game along with Owen. Sort of. Owen was kind of his own character. He was a little independent. And Gwen was really independent, too. But it's fun seeing how Gwen just really didn't want to be on the show, yet made it to the final 3, or final 2, and in some cases ended up winning, which is really cool. And it's a really great final 3. Personally, though, I would prefer Gwen winning, just because I think she did a little more than Owen did. And I don't know which character is better, though. They're both really great characters. Like, Gwen definitely has her great moments, but Owen definitely has his good moments, too. And he's definitely a big comic relief character. But that's what I like about Owen. He's good old Owen. Like, everyone loves Owen. Like, what need I say? Gwen, of course, is really great as well, and this season especially. So seeing her make it to the final 2 was really great as well. And this was definitely just a really great final 2 season. Like, yeah, it would be nice seeing characters like Lashana make it to the final 2, maybe over Owen, but hey, like, I'm happy with what we got. Lashana made it really far this season, so that's great. Like, yeah, some of my other favorite characters, like Lindsay, Heather, they were great, but they had their own seasons that, like, they made it further, and that, like, that's their moment to, like, win the season. This one, yeah, it did feel kind of like Owen and Gwen. It's personally not my favorite, though, because there is times where it's like, there's also other characters that I could see making it. Like, Duncan was really great this season. I could see him making it. Lashana, like I said. But that's just a tiny little nitpick. But personally, this is a pretty good final, too. So with that, let's move on to number 3, which is the Police Cadets and the Surfer Dudes from the Redonkulous Race. Redonkulous Race is such a fresh breath of air after the very Revenge of the Island, awkward All-Stars, and horrible Pagatu Island. It's so great to have just a breath of fresh air with Redonkulous Race. Finally, not just stereotypic one-dimensional characters again. Now we have a bunch of interesting characters. And finally, like, it's really interesting and fun to watch again. The host isn't annoying. They're not just fighting the whole time. The episodes are interesting again. Oh, it's a great breath of fresh air. And yeah, it's not even referencing Survivor this time around. Now it's referencing, you know, The Amazing Race. So, hey, if they can do Survivor, they can do The Amazing Race. Why not? And what's also nice is that they had a total of 4 people from Survivor. Oh, gosh. 4 people from Total Drama into the Redonkulous Race, like Leonard from Pagatu Island, and of course Owen and Noah, can't forget them, and also Jeff, as you can see, with being with his good old pal Brody. And they also made it to the final 2 along with the police cadets, Sanders and MacArthur. And man, they were just so much fun to watch. MacArthur and Sanders obviously are really great, and they're definitely icons of the Redonkulous Race. There's so many icons of Redonkulous Race, so that's how you can tell the writers are finally back to doing, you know, they're back finally. And of course, Jeff and Brody were hilarious as well. They did get eliminated, however, they did come back once Carrie and Devin had to quit due to Devin getting a bad injury. So, yeah, they did kind of get eliminated, but did come back. But you know what? It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that big of a deal. At least they didn't get eliminated in the beginning of the season, then come back. That would have been a different story. But anywho, yeah. Both of the, and what's even funnier is that this is almost like another love team, since Brody loved MacArthur, and MacArthur, I guess, kind of liked Brody in a way. So that made it really funny. And it's fun how they're like complete opposites, where the police cadets are just like, go, 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 and the Surfer Dudes are just so chill and relaxed. Plus, it's nice seeing Jeff make it really far, since the furthest he made it was 6th place in Total Drama Island. So it's nice seeing Jeff again after a long time. But, you know, this was a really, really good final 3 for sure, and I was really debating if this was going to be number 2 or number 3, but I just feel like maybe because the fact that the Surfer dudes got eliminated and then came back was just a little iffy. Plus, there was other teams that liked it a little better, like Owen and Noah, maybe. But it's okay. It's okay. It's a great final two for sure, and it definitely is deserving of number three. So with that, let's move to number two, which is Priya and Bowie for the Total Drama reboot. I remember getting so happy that the reboot season finally came on Hulu last year, so let's hope season 2 comes on Hulu this year. So, it's been a minute since we had an actual total drama season. Yeah, there was Redonkulous Race, but I mean an actual, like, total drama season with Chris as the host with a different voice actor, and Chef coming back with also a different voice actor. You know what, though? Those are minor little nitpicks. Personally, I think Reboot Season 1 was a really great season. It was definitely, once again, another breath of fresh air. Is it as good as some of the best seasons? No, definitely not. It still doesn't compare to, like, World Tour and even Island and Redonkulous Race. But I do think this is overall a really great, reboot. Start back up with Total Drama. And this is a really great, season. Brand new cast, yeah, 14's not a lot, so why don't we add 2 more to at least make it 16? So, okay, that's a bit better. And what's nice is that the characters are finally really fun to watch again, too. Heck, even my least favorite character, which is here in the final 2, Bowie. I know. Bowie is well loved, I think, by a lot of people. I know. Not even Chase or Ripper are worse than him. Bowie, unfortunately, in my opinion, is my least favorite character of Reboot. Even then, like, I didn't even necessarily hate him as a character. I liked him better than characters like Dave from Pocket Island or Jake from Disventure Camp, because they tried to at least make Bowie a fine character, I guess. And luckily, his main storyline, of course, besides being a villain, wasn't shown too much in this season, if you all know what I mean. So, luckily, that wasn't just the main focus, like what Disventure Camp tries to do with Tom and Jake and all that junk that we don't want. Like, no. That was a tiny little side plot, so thank God that didn't completely just dominate the whole season. But what was interesting was seeing Bowie as a villain, and that definitely made him a much more interesting character opposed to just him being a hero. And Priya making it to the final 2 was really great too. Like I said, Priya kind of reminds me of Sky from Pocket Island, but just much better. And having her go up against Bowie was just perfect. There was a lot of fun moments in, I love the Julia versus Bowie moments. Julia is definitely the way better villain, by the way. She's hilarious. She's funny. She almost reminds me of Heather in a way. So, hey, that's really great. We're finally getting our villains right again. It's about time. Not making Chris the villain. But Julia 100% is a really great villain. And heck, Priya and Bowie in the final 2 made for a really great final 2. They both didn't get plot armor. They both didn't, deserve it. No, they both did great in the season, and they both deserved final 2. So, it was fun seeing, of course, Priya beat Bowie and end up winning, which is really great, because I definitely prefer her over Bowie. And overall, Reboot Season 1 was really great, so yeah, I heard Reboot Season 2 ain't as good, but you know what, I'm curious to see what that season's like too. So yeah, now, with this one out of the way, let's get to number 1. And my number 1 favorite final 2 out of any Total Drama or Disventure Camp season is easily Heather and Alejandro from Total Drama World Tour. I mean, come on, who else would it be? The 2 original villains of the series making it to the final 3. Oh, this is about to be a wild ride. So, Heather was obviously originally the villain of Total Drama Island, and she didn't quite make it to the final 2. But this time around, she was still a villain, but she was also a character that we all really rooted for, because now there was a new bad guy in town, aka Alejandro. He was the new villain. And what I love is that both him and Heather are, they're just constructed so perfectly that you want to see them succeed. It's fun seeing them make it really far just because they're great characters. And they're great villains, too. None of this stereotypic bad guy stuff like Mal. None of this weirdness like Sugar or Dave from Pocket 2 Island. And none of this whiny crybaby stuff like Jake or psychopath Rhea. This is true total drama villains, and this is perfection when it comes to total drama villains. They made Alejandro like evil in a way that he can be likable, but also in a way that now we're rooting for Heather to win, which is so great. And of course, because they're both villains, they both end up growing a romance with each other, which is just the most hilarious thing. Heather and Alejandro, two big villains, and now all of a sudden they just love each other. It's so hilarious, and you gotta love how they both always try to outdo each other, but yet their emotions get in the way. Like when Heather was stuck in the hole with a rock, Alejandro saved her, and he could have easily led her there, but he still saved her. So it's just so fun seeing these two start off just by not knowing each other to slowly grow feelings for each other, to eventually like working together, and then eventually working against each other and going head to head in the final challenge. This is what you call a fantastic final two in any total drama series. Heather just had so much like character development plus like character potential to make it to the final two, and they finally listened. None of this Disventure Camp Season 3 garbage where they make Gret this big character development, but they let it just be wasted character potential. No, this is how you truly do it. And even though Alejandro is the main villain, he's still a lot of fun to watch too, just because he's such an interesting character. And it's so much fun seeing these two on screen just because they're just so hilarious and they complement each other perfectly. That's what makes these two just so much fun to watch. Now, yeah, there might be certain people that are saying, well, villains are villains. They're bad guys. I don't want to see them win. I want to see heroes win. Well, yeah, but didn't we have that in season 1 and 2? Like, yeah, we had our heroes win. I think it's about time that the villains won a season. And that's not me dissing on the heroes. I think the heroes are great as well. Lindsay, hero, my absolute favorite total drama character. But that doesn't mean the villains are bad either. Yeah, they're the villains, but that's just the way they play the game. Like, they're not villains in real life. The only one I feel like who would be in real life is Mal. But he's no longer there, so there's that. Or even Rhea from Disventure Camp. But Heather and Alejandro, they're just playing the game. Like, they're not actually bad. They're just villains in the show. They're just villains by the way they played the game. And it's so much fun to watch them, especially together in this season. And because they dominated the season, and they definitely were like the main storyline of World Tour, it just works so perfectly, and it's easily, without a doubt, 100% the best final two out of any season. And that's why it's just such a... I get so upset when Zeke always comes in and fights Heather for the money and ends up falling into the lava with it. This is a season Heather deserved the $1 million. So seeing Zeke take it and just kind of throw it into the lava, it was just so annoying to watch, just because Heather deserved it. If it was any other season, I wouldn't care quite as much. But man, it's just such a shame because Heather really deserved it this time around. And you can see it still got to her in Revenge of the Island because she tried to take the money again. But you know what? It's just a tiny little bad writing there. It's not the whole season. So thank God for that. But man, this is easily 100% the best final two out of any season, and will definitely always be the best final two out of any season. I don't think anything can ever top this. Whew. That was a long video, but it was also really fun to make. It's fun taking a look at total drama seasons and seeing, you know, which finale was really good, which was done well, which had good storytelling, which did not, which worked perfectly, which was lazy, and which was plot armor, etc. It was fun talking about the final two from each total drama season. If you guys like this, maybe eventually I'll talk about each total drama season with maybe the final four, because they are known to do that, especially like Disventure Camp and stuff in the original Total Drama Island season. So maybe I'll eventually rank each final four from each total drama season. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good day.